Give us a quick introduction on you and your company and what we're going to talk about today.
Hey, that's great. Great idea. I'm Scott Cooper. I'm the founder of Tower 23 IT and Securus Consulting Group. We provide managed IT, cybersecurity, and compliance services, small to medium businesses, mostly in regulated industries. And today's topic is really kind of getting a sense of what's going on in terms of social engineering and insider threats and how organizations are under an increased attack today from their adversaries.
Yeah, it is the frequency of which we are hearing about incidences of social engineering fraud, wire transfer fraud, and bad actors, not only from the outside but from the inside, has been overwhelming.
Yeah, well, I think what we see when we talk about, this whole social engineering, the basic premise is they're trying to get your employees, your third-party vendors, your fractional partners to either divulge information, right? We're looking for usernames and passwords, or they might be trying to get them to do something. So they're getting inside the network. They're looking for your accounts payable department to pay an invoice. They're looking for your accounts receivable invoices that are going out to see if they can redirect them to your clients. And so oftentimes what happens is we end up having our business email compromised, right? That's a very traditional strategy for the bad actors. Is they're getting in, they're monitoring that email going back and forth. And what ends up happening is that money gets redirected at the right time for the bad guys, but unfortunately for the good guys, the client, it can be a devastating incident. What we generally find is as we try to help clients direct resources, right, time and money and energy, is to put at a macro level, right, the organization wants to put some things in place, and something as simple as employee training, right? We need to familiarize employees with what these tactics are that the bad actors are trying to leverage. And unfortunately, those tactics are changing so rapidly, especially with the introduction of artificial intelligence. AI has been a game changer in terms of deep fakes. So we see voice spoofing, we see smishing, which is utilizing text messaging. We're now seeing it in phishing. So they're calling on phones, they're leaving voicemails. The phone number looks like it's actually coming from your banker, from your client. And so all of those things, we have to educate staff, right? The second thing is we're trying to create organizations getting to a security first mentality. I like to, refer to it as politely paranoid. So we want to have some suspicion around if I'm not expecting this, right? Why would somebody be sending this? So that's at the macro level, right? And then also putting some tools in place, right? Maybe having some email protection that will look at links before your employees are actually able to click on them. We'll maybe be able to determine that, hey, this is not actually an authentic email coming from this organization. It's a spoofed email. And then we want to get down to the micro level, right? We want to coach and get the team, the employees, the third-party vendors, the fractional folks, again, with that polite paranoia. So if you're not expecting something, that should immediately put you on alert. When somebody's requesting something, we want you to slow down, right? There's always an urgency around social engineering. Hey, I need this right now. We need these gift cards for tonight's party. You haven't paid this invoice. Right, so we want people to kind of slow down and zoom out. We want them to look closer at the sender's email. We want them to spend some time hovering, not clicking, but hovering potentially over links to see, is this really coming from our payroll company? Is this really coming from our bank? Or is it somebody, masquerading or spoofing that? So that's kind of a 50,000-foot organizational, hey, get your people trained and put some tools and technologies in place at a company level. And then for the employees, it's get a little paranoid, be a little suspicious, be a little hesitant. And, kind of coming out of 9/11, there was this whole, hey, if you see something, say something. That is very much in vogue today when we talk about social engineering, because bad actors are making an attempt to do this company-wide. So we do see phishing attacks in organizations that are hitting everyone within an accounting department or within a sales department.
Wild, Wild West again. Great. Well, you know, my name is Peter Katkov. I'm the CEO and founder of a commercial insurance agency called Apex Risk and Insurance Services here in Carlsbad. And very similar to you, we're helping middle market privately owned companies manage their risk and insurance programs. So where I always consider IT and cybersecurity the first line of defense against bad actors and internal actors and these types of social engineering situations, we consider the policies that we write on the cybersecurity and cyber liability front the last line of defense. They've gotten through all the training, they have penetrated the digital infrastructure, they've impacted your business in a negative way. Now what happens? You know, that's when the insurance carrier steps in and you have appropriate limits that replace your income because of a adverse event. It pays for forensic reporting and trying to dig into where the penetration happened. And we prefer not to have to use it, but it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So, and social engineering fraud coverage has been much more difficult and much more expensive to get because of all the things that you're talking about with artificial intelligence ramping up these bad actors' ability to reach more people, and the creativity of their, like you said, spoofing and voicemail and text messaging. It's getting very difficult to distinguish between real communications within your company or between you and a vendor and an artificial one. So it's incumbent upon us in the underwriting process to talk about best practices, training, and infrastructural procedures that you've put in place to prevent these types of claims. But the carriers understand that these are the most likely claim scenarios that they're going to face. So what they've done is, instead of offering $1 million limits out the gate for social engineering fraud, they're leading with maybe a $250,000 sublimit. And the more information we can give those underwriters to get them comfortable with our best practices, the more limit we can get, the more reasonable the coverage is, and ultimately protect the balance sheet against the unforeseen. So it's a bit of, you play one role, we play the other. Hopefully you never need us, but everyone certainly needs what you're talking about here from a training and best practices perspective.
Yeah, Peter, I think that's a great point. I mean, we try to get our clients to understand that the ultimate backstop, right, to be able to respond and recover from this is going to be insurance, right? Most companies are not going to be able to withstand the $150,000 ACH funds transfer fraud. I've had occasion to investigate those and look at those coming afterwards. There's about a 48-hour window if you work with the FBI and you do a swift recall with your bank to pull that money back. After 48 hours, that money is probably not going to be coming back. And at that point, if you're not having that recovery strategy with insurance, as you said, at the right sublimits, and you've done the right things that you said you've done, most businesses are not going to survive that, right? They're just not going to be able to come back from that in a manner that is not going to, at a minimum, right, it's going to diminish their reputation potentially with their customers. They could have regulatory issues. Even employees. I mean, we've investigated a couple of incidents where bad actors were actually communicating with their employees, telling the employees of the company, hey, your boss isn't going to pay us and you guys are going to go out of business. You should start getting your resume, right, updated. You need to go look for a new job. Well, that's psychological warfare at that point. So yeah, 100%. We want to have that ultimate backstop that the insurance company can facilitate that response and that recovery. So yeah, I think without that, companies are really at a disadvantage in on the playing field, if you will.
Yeah, we're just trying to keep our clients ahead of the curve and trying to look beyond the headlights. And Obviously, you have access to a lot of data. You see a lot of circumstances. So, your expertise and experience has been invaluable in helping our clients kind of navigate that environment and complete applications that are in a format that the carriers are comfortable with. And that's a big piece of our job, is to tell the story and then ultimately get the coverage. And you guys play a big piece in that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too there is you mentioned earlier assessing that risk when you're working with your clients. Different clients have much different risk profiles and they have very different security postures. And I think you guys are doing a great job in terms of helping clients understand this is what's most likely to happen to you. And that's where we need to be, bolstering the insurance and the sublimits. This is maybe less likely to happen. And social engineering, to your point, it is number one, unfortunately, on our list right now in terms of the incidents that we see with email being attacked, the attempts to compromise credentials, utilize credentials to log in, that we're not talking here about hacking through the firewall and defeating the antivirus, right? This is basically outsmarting the employee. And that's very difficult to defend against from a technology standpoint.
Yeah, I like the polite paranoia. Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, we appreciate you as a resource, and obviously, if your clients need help on the insurance side and vice versa, if ours need help from you, we'll certainly connect the dots.
That's great. Thank you, Peter, and thanks for having me on today.
You got it. Thanks, Scott.
All right.